Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? So, I've got a bit of a random rumination for you guys today. This is a bit different than usual. I'm doing it live. People who watch these videos know I normally just talk to the camera for as long as it takes to say whatever it is I feel like I need to say, as I have thoughts and ideas kind of just bouncing around. And this really is a stream of consciousness. But the usual process is I record it and then upload it afterwards, after adding end caps on, and rendering the whole thing again, so forth. Sometimes adding some pictures here and there. And I figured I'd just skip that step and just record myself doing it live anyway. I mean, what difference does it really make? And it is a Friday evening for me. I'm kind of running a bit late. It's my son's first birthday party tomorrow. The wife's downstairs currently making a cake. And it's really is just best that I stay out of the way. So that's why I'm up here doing this instead. But no, I do have some thoughts, some ideas, some things that kind of been weighing on me a little bit. It's not really weighing on me is the wrong word. It's I have noticed an uptick in a certain style of comments on my channel, which I feel like needs to be addressed in a way because it's pertinent to my life. It's worrying, to me personally because it's dealing with people in my own country, and I called this episode Thanks as like a preliminary title because in America right now it is Thanksgiving, isn't it? As I'm recording this, maybe late in the afternoon for you guys. I don't really know what time you eat your meal there, probably early, late morning, maybe very early afternoon, perhaps midday or something. And maybe now it's just your evening time, you're relaxing, taking the day off work and just, enjoying life a little bit. And I can appreciate the holiday sentiments because here in the UK we don't have anything like that. That doesn't exist for us. We have absolutely nothing to be thankful for. We just don't see the necessity for such a holiday here. We have Christmas coming around the corner, so what's the point? We just had Halloween and we've got Christmas. Why do you need anything else in between? You got bonfire night, set some fireworks off, that's it. But I was just thinking about this idea, to be thankful for what you've got. And as conspiracy theorists, it can be tough for us to do that. It can be quite difficult sometimes for us to kind of find that peace and that joy in day-to-day life and existence. And we can't help but, alienate friends and family because of the things we like to talk about and the ideas we've kind of discovered along the way. And you have these holidays, like Thanksgiving in America, and I wonder how much of my own audience is actually even being invited to these things anymore. Or if when you do turn up, the family's expecting you to open your mouth and say something that's going to piss everybody off. And I imagine arguments abound every single year for you guys. And in a way, this random rumination I want to kind of mill on for a little bit, kind of back a Tips for Truthers session. And it's the idea, look, life is pretty short for us. God ordained the maximum lifespan is about 120 years if you're extremely lucky. You ain't going to go further than that if you're, at the extreme end of life. But realistically, you're very lucky if you're making it to 80. That's good. That's a very good age to make it to. But that's not a long time. And in that time that we live, you do need to take advantage of those small moments where you are actually with your family. How often does that really happen, where you get together with the whole family to enjoy a meal? And because it is in our nature as like truthers to want to try and help our loved ones, we do want to tell them the truth and try and wake them up to things, and we can, especially in our early days of waking up, instigate those type of discussions and even arguments, believing we perhaps have some kind of moral high ground over these people who just don't understand, who are just sheep following the programming, and we're trying our best to slap them awake and say, do you see, and so forth. But as the years go on, I imagine many of your own family start to argue with you instead and bring it up, and says, oh, you're not still a conspiracy theorist, are you? What crazy thing are you looking into this week? Go on, tell me about it. And then you do tell them about it because you want to tell them some stuff, but they're just like, they're not serious, they're trying to make fun of you, but you do it anyway, and that leads to one thing to another, and then before you know it, you're just screaming at each other, and they're saying, get off your damn soapbox, do you think you're better than me? It's that kind of thing. I guess what I'm saying is, do you really want that to be the rest of your life? Maybe there's a time and a place for these type of conversations. Maybe it's not around the dinner table with your loved ones, friends, and family. And I know I have Christmas around the corner, and I try myself to avoid, when you get together with friends and family, to have that meal, to not do these things or have these conversations. And, if you're going out with your mates to the pub for a drink and to catch up, don't start telling them about what's going on currently with the World Economic Forum and what's around the corner. Just leave it out. Just let them enjoy having a drink, because Lord knows they don't have much time to themselves either in this day and age with the way things are going. And fleeting moments of happiness, togetherness, and joy are rare. So I guess it's just a friendly reminder, perhaps a bit too late for my American listeners out there. Maybe I can still catch you in the back end of California, though. Maybe it's like midday for you guys or something like that. But don't start arguing with your family today. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Those moments are actually precious and rare. So there is that. I do want to say that. So be thankful for those Americans out there celebrating Thanksgiving today. And I myself have been going through the day busy entertaining children, distracting them long enough to keep my wife some space so she can do what needs to be done for the party tomorrow and so forth. Teamwork, But at the same time, I'm there perusing through comments every now and then on my channel. And there seems to be this huge rising backlash or pissed offness. I don't know how to describe it really. Just this animosity towards me from some people who have kind of watched my recent release about Thanksgiving was yesterday, was it? Whatever. I don't know what that means. Whatever. Be thankful anyway. It's too late. Way too late. But what I was saying is, people are quite mad with the flag conversation I had. So in Britain, if you haven't seen, there was a moment not long actually after Charlie Kirk's incident, that suddenly flags were flying all over the place in the UK, down every single small street you can imagine. Every small town and village was doing this, to every high street, up and down the entire country. And then it spread up to Scotland as well, and Wales, which are attached to England, so it's not that big of a deal, but you can expect that to happen. And this, like a wave traveled through England of people putting up flags on lampposts or in their own garden or out their windows, just everywhere. And I made the suggestion based on, research and experience and just understanding how the world works from like a conspiratorial perspective. I postulated that maybe this wasn't actually as organic as they would want us to think it is. And what happened is I've had a lot of comments from people kind of telling me that, well, people like you think everything's a conspiracy. Why can't it just be good people wanting their country back and wanting to show how proud they are? What else are we supposed to do? You know what I mean? Would you rather we do nothing? And do you not support your fellow compatriots? What are you, a traitor? And all this kind of bubbling up anger and rage was kind of being thrown at me in a lot of the comments. Not really listening or understanding what I'm actually saying. No, I love my country. I love the people of this country. I love my home. I love everything about it. And yes, I would love to see a rise of pride in our nation, because God knows that's disappeared quite a lot with the younger generations, even my own generation, the millennials. And coming with that, there has been a decay of the country itself. And I would like to see more cohesion, more togetherness. But with the rise of the flags everywhere, there has also been a rise coinciding with that. And I brought this up in the video of like a Christianity. I say a Christianity because it's a form of churchianity, of Christianity. And what we're seeing are cultural Christians rising up. So they're not necessarily actually avid readers of the word, or their hearts are necessarily wholly dedicated to understanding the words of Jesus Christ and following in his footsteps. It's more of they say they're Christians and identify as Christian because they understand that their nation needs a cohesive identity as a counter to the Islamic invasion of our country, basically. So it's like a counter to that in their own hearts and minds. It's like they are going to stand for Christianity because we are a Christian country. But are they actually, quote unquote, followers of Jesus Christ necessarily? And that was what I was asking and what I was primarily worried about. And I brought to the table the perspective that, well, maybe this is a part of an agenda. And I don't doubt the people on the ground genuinely are doing this for wholehearted reasons, with good intentions. But what led them to that situation and position to begin with, where they are suddenly going towards this nationalist Christianity, I don't think was organic at all. I think people have been played and moved into positions to start thinking and acting and behaving like this. And I suggested the whole flag waving thing was probably started by a small group of agent provocateurs, and then many people jumped on board who love their country, love their nations, love their people, don't want to see it fade away and be taken over by foreign ideologies, and started putting flags up everywhere themselves. And before we knew it, it went viral in a very literal, physical, tangible sense. And small communities banded together and continued it, and the movement went on. I think it was Raise the Colours was the movement on Facebook. That's kind of all the funding's going, you know. And good people follow psyops. Many good people who don't realize they're involved in one usually are involved in one. You know, that does happen. And that's kind of the point I was trying to get people to think about. Okay, yeah. And the issue is, doing these things is actually completely justifiable because we are in a hellhole and we are going down into a pit and everything's getting worse and terrible things have been done to our country and our peoples and our children. And people are justifiably pissed off, and I get it. And I like to see it on the surface, you know? There's flags everywhere. It's like everyone's rising up, everyone's suddenly talking about Christianity again, and the churches are filling up. But then I've been in the conspiratorial world long enough to know I need to take a step back and just think for a second. Is this really what it seems? You know, and when you start to just ask those questions and think about it, and you understand that there actually are long agendas at play here, you know, very long agendas at play. Maybe it's not as organic as we think it is. Maybe it's not. And it seems like there are people out there who just want to instantly jump to the conclusion that I'm some left-wing liberal crazy who hates my country and hates my people. I'm not. You know, I hate what foreign influence has done to our country. I hate the UN's policies of open borders and what Tony Blair did with the. I hate all of it. I hate what we're doing in terms of what's going on in Israel as well, and their involvement in all of this. And all of this destabilization of the Western world and Christian nations. I'm against all of it. Honestly, I'm not like pro any of that stuff. The Kalergi plan and the rest of it. I know about all that stuff. You just can't really talk about it on YouTube. It's extremely risky, like extremely risky, you know. But I get it, and I sympathize deeply with it. But then you understand, like, that scripts get written well in advance before they get played on the public, and you've got institutes, you know, working to create these culture creation industries, you know, and were the actors on that stage that they're going to direct, and we have to be aware that that's always happening at all times, and we shouldn't jump on bandwagons so quickly as people who claim to be quote unquote awake, you know. So as much as I would love it to be a real rise of Christianity in the nations and people taking the country back with pride, I understand, well, there's probably a co-option or an agenda driving all of that, and people didn't like me saying that because obviously people don't want to admit that maybe they've been played. I suppose that's the element of it as well. And also, there is always those people in the world who just do not realize that there's a conspiracy afoot here. They think everything is organic and natural, and it's just us fighting the evil Labour or the left or something. And it goes way beyond the left-right paradigm, like way beyond it. And it's just, and like I said, the coordinated comments on my video saying these same talking points also makes me a bit suspect with the way they're phrasing it. It's like, if you actually listen to the video, you wouldn't even be saying those things. You'd understand where I was actually coming from. You know, because there is an agenda through Albert Pike. He wrote this in a letter a long time ago. And you can say what you want about the validity of that letter, because it was written in a certain time period, mentioning things like Zionism and Nazism way before those things were even invented. I understand that. You know? But still, it's playing out exactly how the letter wrote. It's still playing it out like it's a script. You know, it's still happening. And one of those things on there is to restrain Christianity for a long time and step on it and push it down with communism and liberalism and everything else. And then piss them off to the point where they snap and then unleash that form of angry, pissed off, subjugated Christianity back onto the world stage and let them run rampant and destroy all the enemies, which is communism, atheism, you know, that type of thing, socialist, Marxist and the rest of it, and Islam and whatever, all the while fomenting a Middle Eastern war in which Zionism and Islam will mutually destroy each other, while Christianity takes over, roughshod over in a horrible way, get them so angry that they become bloodthirsty, and then in the chaos, in the midst of all the death and bloody turmoil caused by religious war in the Middle East, a rising new crusade from Christianity, the utter annihilation and genocide of communist ideologies, the whole world will be so disillusioned with the misery and death caused by a lack of religion and religion itself that they'll be looking for a middle ground. What can we possibly do? Where are we going to place our ideological minds and our deistic spirits? Well, their plan is to then introduce the Luciferian doctrine, but it won't call it that. But like the New Age religion or something, or some special technocratic AI-based technological transhumanist mankind taking control of their own evolution type religion with science mixed in there with some kind of weird woo-woo spiritualism, quantum mechanics, or something like that. And we'll think we have become our own gods and we're taking control, and that is the Luciferianism. That's Satanism. But we won't realize it. And that's the plan. So when I look at the world stage, I have to look at it and think, well, is that playing out? And when I see this rise of Christian nationalism, who aren't really Christians, the cultural Christians, there's a huge difference. They're not followers of Jesus Christ, essentially. They're very new to it. They are doing it as a reaction to their identity being taken away. And justifiably so. This is how they get you. It's all completely justified. It's right that they should want to have an identity and a national identity. It's right that they should feel this way. And it's right that they should do something about it. But you best believe whatever they end up doing is going to be framed as evil. Just like the first Crusades were. You won't go down in the history books as the heroes, because the history book writers are our enemies. And I hope people see this. I really do. You know, this is not called understanding conspiracy for nothing. There's a conspiracy here to understand. And of course, all this was instigated from, you know, those you are not allowed to name from the very top. Of course, all of this has the paymasters are up there. But even those people on the grand chessboard of things are just the queen. And even the queen can be sacrificed to save the king. He goes well above all of this. And the king of all of this orchestrated mess is Satan, basically. And you can metaphorically say that's a message for the 13 or 14 blood families who believe they have the divine right to rule, working all together to subjugate us in one way or the other, you know. And we all kind of know who those families are. But at the end of the day, it's the synagogue of Satan who's in control. And they have their Zionist queen puppets on the world stage, sure, and then they have the generals all over the place. This is principalities in high places. This is spiritual wickedness that we're fighting against. And when you're fighting a spiritual war, what seems in the flesh and the physical is not all that there is or what it truly seems. There's spirits behind movements and actions, and there's agendas at play which cannot be seen, hidden spiritual forces. And if you're not into the religious stuff, then fine, call those spiritual forces ideologies or ideas or something. But if you are into the spiritual aspect of things, there's literally entities that are not quite of this realm also working in tandem with all those things too. It is happening. And that's us, from our perspective here, need to be better. We need to be smarter. We need to think clearly. And you're not thinking clearly when you're reacting. Okay, if you're just reacting through life, you're not really living your life. You're a puppet, even if you don't know it. You know, and I guess that's kind of like my random rumination there. These are the thoughts that are knocking about. And when I said those things frivolously to begin with in a conversation with Christopher, you know, from Biocharisma in a podcast, and just posted a clip out there, you know, it's kind of viral. I think it's got like 8,000 views now in a few days. But it's kind of, I got the people with the St. George's flag as their bio picture coming on to say their two cents about, you know, oh, people like you would rather we just do nothing. And it's kind of, I did not say that. I didn't say do nothing. Whatever we do, make it peaceful. Because if you want to be Christian, then you don't do it through bloodshed and war. That's not how it's done. It's done through sacrifice. And it's easier to go down the war route. Far easier. It's not easy to solve things peaceably. It really isn't. And look, It's about understanding where blame should be directed. You know, what's that classic phrase? Can you really blame an orc for behaving like an orc? Is that the parallel people use all the time? Is that what people who watch things like the Lotus Eaters like to use as metaphors? You know, who let them in is where we should be putting our blame, and then take back control and change the policy and reverse what was done peaceably as much as we possibly can. That's the Christian way. And look, there's nothing inherently wrong with waving flags. There isn't. I don't think there's a problem with that. But even if you are a Christian, you need to understand that your allegiance isn't to a flag either, or a country, or a race, or a people's, or a religion, even. Because I don't think every relationship with Jesus is a religion with its set rules of priest, class, and or ritual you must follow, or else you're not in the club. It's having a relationship with the Father in heaven through Jesus Christ and his sacrifice, and that's personal. And you can have ecclesia. You can have your gatherings and your fellowship, sure. But as soon as that organized fellowship starts telling you you must do this, or you must behave this way, or we must start a revolution, then you should probably start looking the other way. You should start questioning what's really going on there. Because our treasures are not here on earth, they're in heaven. Our only job as Christians and followers of the way really is to make disciples of men. And when the world watches Christianity rise and crusade, killing many in the name of God, that's terrible optics. In the name of Jesus. It doesn't sound right to me. And we need to be wary of that. We need to be wary of that. You need to be aware of that. Like, shitty living situations have been facilitated by bad people to make you react and get violent. It's that simple. So you can get violent at the enemy they pointed you towards, or you can turn around and say, no, you did this. You could do that. What are you going to do? Which way are you going to go? Are you going to react, or are you going to think and act accordingly? Yeah, so there you go, guys. I've got nothing really much to say. That's my random rumination here. We did it live. We're doing it live this time because I haven't got much time. What have I gone for? 22 minutes. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below about what you think. Am I completely way off? Am I unreasonable to say these things? Really? You know, let me know if that's the case. I want my brothers and sisters in Christ and the people of England to know I am not your enemy. I'm on your side. I want solutions too. I really do. But please never lose sight of the fact that we have bad people in positions of power, not Christians as it should be. And those people have a plan. They're not going to let go of the reins of control so easily. And we are always being played. It's up to us whether or not we choose to put down their script and stop acting on their stage. It's up to us. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. And as always, God bless.